All right. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We are going to go ahead and call to order this special called meeting of the Johnson County Commissioners Court. It is 2:30 p.m. here on Monday, May 11th. Appreciate all of y'all joining us. I'm always encouraged to see significant citizen participation whenever we have something, and it's been a little while since we had a packed house, but I'm excited that y'all are all here for us with this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and read in our item, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what the plan is today and what's in front of the court and in front of the citizens. We're here on a workshop. The only item we have today is workshop only. There is no action planned for today, and that is a workshop 1, WS1, presentation and discussion on data centers. I want to begin with a couple of remarks that, first of all, this is not related to any specific project. There is nothing in front of the court at this time for us to take action on. There is not a development, not a data center that we are aware of that requires court action regarding tax incentives like you've heard of in other counties or development agreements, any of those kind of things. That is not what we're talking about today. This is in response to requests from the citizens to have an informational meeting so that we can learn more about the process together. The only way for all five members of this court to be in the same place and hear the same information is for us to call a special meeting and get the education together. So we've invited a speaker. I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Woolley in just a few minutes for him to introduce our speaker. She is going to talk about some of the questions that we should be asking whenever developers come and talk to Johnson County, some of the things we should be aware of whenever data centers want to move here, because we do know they're likely going to want to be here. Having said that, this is informational. It's informational for us as well as for you guys. It's being broadcast on the internet. It's being preserved on our website so it can be replayed at any time. There is an opportunity for public comment. So if you are here in person and would like to speak, we are going to ask you to have signed up within the next couple of minutes. There's a notebook or a clipboard right up there on the bar. If you want to go sign in, you'll have an opportunity to speak. We are going to hold public comments and most of the court comments until after the presentation, because, again, this is educational, and I would like to receive the education piece before we start making comments about what may or may not end up in Johnson County. With that, like I said, I'm going to ask Commissioner Woolley to introduce the topic. Before we do that, any of the other court members have anything they'd like to say before we kick off?
I think you've covered it.
All right. Commissioner Woolley, floor
Thank
is
you,
yours.
Judge. First of all, I am thrilled that we have so many people here from, and I know there's people here from other counties. I see Commissioner Ponder back there from Ellis County, and see people running for statewide office, and so I'm really glad that we have this many people interested in this topic. I know that we're having a lot of people tune in and listen to our live broadcast as well. And by the way, this is recorded and will be archived on our website, johnsoncountytx.org, for those of you that would like to go back and listen to it as well. I attended at the invitation of Mr. Matt Smith with Cleburne Times-Review about a month ago. Well, it was April 15th is when it was. I attended a meeting of the Fort Worth Sierra Club, and Ms. Beving was the guest speaker that night and talking about data centers. And I attended that meeting and was so impressed by the information that she gave that I invited her to come to this. We were able to set up a special call meeting and got approved by the rest of the court to prepare for this presentation. This presentation is I posted this on social media, and I think there was a lot of misconception about what this is going to be. There's no data center being considered today. There's no data center here making a presentation or making a pitch. This court has already unanimously supported and approved a resolution asking the state legislature to slow this thing down, take a harder look at this, provide more study time, and give counties more authority, because right now we don't have any. The only authority we have over data centers is through the platting process, and they're buying big enough tracts of land that they don't require platting. Just this weekend, I drove by 3 of the largest data centers, or 2 in particular, in the state. I drove through Abilene on Friday evening, and I had no idea. I don't know how many of you have seen that, but I had no idea what we're talking about. It looks like a city, okay? Think about our Amazon Center out here where the toll road comes in the north side of town. What they have going on in Abilene, Texas makes that look like a pup tent, okay? Yesterday we went out to see our daughter in Canyon, and yesterday coming home down 287, I saw the one in Claude in Armstrong County, almost as big. Back to the one in Abilene, I was told this morning by one of our city's economic development directors that the city of Abilene is already having power issues, and that thing's not even complete yet. They're already having rolling brownouts and blackouts. The one in Claude is huge. On every corner out there, there's a new RV park. There's people renting out RV spots in their front yard out there on farms and ranches in Armstrong County because there's so many people in there building that thing. It's absolutely huge. There's one in Childress right down the road, south of Armstrong County and Childress County. The West Texans are very concerned about water, as we are. We're very concerned about PFAS chemicals being released out of these data centers. We're going to hear about that today, along with some other things. And the other thing that is happening, especially in that West Texas area where there tends to be a concentration of those, employers are losing key employees. Those employers were there first. This court has always been very cognizant and loyal to the people that were here first. There's a lot of those West Texas county officials that are ecstatic about those centers because of the amount of tax revenue they generate. I can tell you the climate and the appetite for this court, and I said this a month ago when we passed that resolution. The appetite of this court to provide any tax incentives is just about zero, because it doesn't seem fair to us to provide any type of incentive for something when all our other businesses are not being incentivized. These data centers receive a sales tax exemption on their supplies that they use to build those centers. Senator Perry, I heard Commissioner Bailey and I heard Senator Perry out in Wichita Falls the week before last saying that the state had taken a $4 billion hit in sales tax revenue due to that sales tax exemption for manufacturing facilities such as data centers. The state brought that upon themselves. They passed that a number of sessions ago. So at the conclusion of that Sierra Club meeting the other night on April 15th, I approached the speaker, which is Rita Beving, and asked her if she'd be willing to come to Johnson County and do a presentation. She said she would like to. So I'm gonna give you some introductory comments and some and their bios here about our two speakers. First of all, Texas is second in the nation for this explosive growth of data centers powering AI and cloud computing. And this growth is spurring a significant increase in power demand, testing our water supplies, and has possible impacts to our air quality and loss of open space. Rita Beving will be our lead presenter today. She has a 30-year history of working on environmental and energy issues in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and statewide. She currently serves on the Dallas Environmental Commission as a technical advisor. She also works for the nonprofit organization Public Citizen and has formerly worked with several nonprofit organizations during her tenure. She's a graduate of Iowa State University and resides in the Dallas area with her husband and attorney David Griggs. Rita also has been, and I think she's going to comment a little bit about, she's worked with Texas Farm Bureau on eminent domain issues, and so she is a friend of rural Texas as well. Also with us today is Mr. Adrian Shelley. He is a native Texan from the city of Houston. He is the Texas director of the agency Public Citizen, a nonprofit organization that works on issues including clean energy, environmental enforcement, and ethics reform. Mr. Shelley has a law degree from the University of Texas and previously has served as the executive director for Air Alliance of Houston. So with that, Rita, I'll turn it over to you and look forward to hearing your presentation. And as Judge Boedeker said, we'll hold the questions and comments until the end of their presentation, and that way we'll be more streamlined in how that goes. Rita?
Thank you so much, and I'll just ask my executive director to stand up a second. I'm going to call him up at the end of this presentation. Adrian Shelley. So, good afternoon, Judge, County Commissioners, and those attending today. Thank you for inviting us to speak on data centers. We will be giving a high-level presentation on this topic, including how Texas fares with the nation on data centers, some basics about how these facilities function, and the possible impacts and considerations on regulating these facilities as we move forward in our state. So together we hope to address many of the issues surrounding data centers. Next slide. So, worldwide, there are more than 11,000 data centers. The U.S. has 4,000 data centers, or over 43% of the global market. The U.S. actually has 8 times the number of data centers than any other country. Next slide. So, as Commissioner Woolley said, Texas is second in the nation for data center development, and we could be the world's largest data center hub in the next couple years. One industry report suggested that Texas could experience a 142% increase in data center development by 2028. DFW is the largest data center market in Texas and the second largest in the entire country. Next. So why are data centers flocking to Texas? Well, compared to Michigan or the state of Arizona, we have a rather mild, favorable climate, which reduces a data center's cooling costs. We have low energy costs, some of the lowest electricity prices in the U.S. We have a business-friendly environment. There are sales tax exemptions provided by the state for these facilities. Many counties and cities are giving property tax incentives and more. We are also in a favorable regulatory environment. Permitting is much faster than other states. One industry article said if you were in the state of Virginia, which is actually the #1 data center state in the nation, it could take you as long as 7 years from beginning to end to get your data center permit. In Texas, it could take 3. Although in the present condition that ERCOT's in with all the applications for connections, that may soon grow to a longer timeline. Next, we have robust infrastructure. We have a strong power grid, and we have an extensive fiber optic network in our North Texas region. We are also becoming a growing technical hub, with Austin and Dallas fast becoming one of the fastest growing tech hubs in the state. And finally, we have land availability. I don't think I need to tell you, we've got one of the biggest states in the union, and that's another reason where we may quickly supersede Virginia in building out data centers. So let's get to the nuts and bolts of a data center. What is a data center? A data center is a secured building filled with rows of servers that store, process, and distribute digital information across the internet. These facilities run 24/7. Now, a cryptocurrency mine is also technically a data center, but crypto miners can stand down, and the state has actually paid crypto miners to stand down during peak electrical usage. Next slide. So there's 4 types of data centers. First one is an enterprise center. It's privately built. It's owned by one company. The next category is co-location. Rented space, but bring your own hardware. Think of it like an apartment building, and instead of bringing furniture, you bring your own servers, and they rent out the space to you. A hyperscaler, and you'll hear this word a lot. Also in the legislature, you'll hear the word hyperscaler a lot. Large enterprises with hundreds of servers. And when we get to the slides later, we're talking as big an acreage as 8,000 acres for GW Ranch at Pecos, more than 5,000 acres for Fermi America in Amarillo. Huge, huge campuses. And lastly, there's an edge data center, small and local, and data is stored close to where it is created. You'll see a lot of edge data centers near DFW. Next slide. So data centers need to cool their servers, and they can require millions of gallons of water. A large data center can consume 5 million gallons a day, enough water to supply a town between 10 and 50,000 people. A mid-sized data center can take up to 300,000 gallons of water per day. And this is all according to the Environmental and Energy Study Institute. Next slide. So let's talk about cooling systems. Now, this will, just like water will vary from data center to data center, there are different kinds of cooling systems for these facilities. They can be water or air-based. A water-based system is reliant on evaporative cooling, which takes less electricity, and an air-cooled system takes less water but demands more power. So air cooling systems will release water heat directly into the ambient air without using water. Direct-to-chip cooling involves circulating liquid directly to the heat-generating components of servers. There's immersive cooling where they actually submerge the servers in a non-conductive fluid. And you'll hear the next system quite a bit by data centers and also down at the Capitol. Closed-loop systems recirculate chilled water or cooler in a closed circuit, minimizing water loss and improving efficiency. But even with a closed-loop system, you're going to have at least 10 to 20% evaporation in those systems. Lastly, hybrid systems, which is a combination of multiple cooling methods using evaporative cooling only when necessary. Next. So let's talk about the potential water pollutants from data center facilities. Chemicals can leach into the liquid or vapor, or in a vapor form, into the water during cooling. And those contaminants include biocides, such as chlorine dioxide or bromine, which is toxic, and it is used to prevent the growth of algae, bacteria, mold, etc., as this recirculates water through the system. There are corrosion inhibitors. Various kinds of phosphates are used to prevent system corrosion. There's heavy metals. Now, these are trace elements of heavy metals, such as copper, zinc, and lead. And we get these trace metals because as the servers age and degrade, you'll get those trace elements. But multiply those trace elements by hundreds of thousands of gallons of water or even millions of gallons of water. So it adds up. And I want to note that at some point, a data center is going to have to get rid of that water, which is contaminated with these metals. And all of these chemicals are going to be more concentrated when they have to be discharged from the data center. You also have glycols. Ethylene glycol is toxic, or it may use propylene glycol, which can be used to maintain optimal temperature. Think of it as antifreeze for your data center. Lastly, there's PFAS that I know your county is very familiar with. Forever chemicals that can be found in the cooling systems, in the making of chips, for semiconductors, and suppression systems. Next slide. So let's talk about PFAS a little more, since Johnson County's had such a negative experience with that. In 2024, the EPA determined there is no safe level of exposure to PFAS or per- and polyfluoroalkyl chemicals. PFAS are used in data centers as part of the coolant gases in immersion cooling fluids. A common cooling method involves using PFA gases in a compressor system similar to a refrigerator to cool air or water for the computers. Alternatively, computers can be submerged in PFA chemical fluids and glycols to transfer heat because the servers are going to run hot, so you need constant cooling on the servers. PFAS are also found, as I mentioned a moment ago, in semiconductor manufacturing and chip manufacturing. These forever chemicals never break down in the environment, are toxic and carcinogenic to humans. PFAS can leach into the air, water, or soil. Thank you. So, there is a huge concern in Texas over a lack of water resources. As we know, there are many parts of the state already in drought. And per the 2022 Texas Water Plan, if the state faced a serious drought in 2030, the state would be 4.7 million acre-feet short, and that's more than 20% of projected demand. And for those who don't know what an acre-foot is, think of 1 acre filled 1 foot deep, or something slightly smaller than a football field, 1 foot deep. So just a month or so ago, the Natural Resources Committee, chaired by Representative Harris, had the Texas Water Development Board before it to talk about aquifers and groundwater. And they were one of the first 2 hours of that meeting was spent with all the legislators asking the Texas Water Development Board, do you have a handle on the water use of these data centers? Do you have any idea what we're facing with all this water demand from data centers? And the Texas Water Development Board had to admit they don't have a handle on it. They are sending out a survey to data centers regarding water use, But I will tell you, ERCOT's done that also on their side of the aisle, and they didn't get many responses from the facilities. Behind you, by the way, that is Lake Lavon in 2012 during one of our record droughts, which was a water source for Dallas. Next slide. So, data centers are co-locating with natural gas plants in many counties on their own acreages. Data centers require hundreds of megawatts of electricity. Some use gigawatts, or they're so big, like Fermi America is supposed to be 11 gigawatts if it's totally built out. Many Texas data centers, and by the way, a single megawatt can power the average house for a month. There are so much demand for bringing your own power that Chevron, Exxon, Diamondback Energy are now building gas-powered power plants just for commercial use for these data centers. Next slide.
There we go. Sorry.
That's okay. So, almost 40 gigawatts of natural gas power plants are planned to directly power data centers. That's enough to supply 10 million homes on the hottest summer days. If Texas were a country, I find this fact phenomenal. If Texas were a country, we're only second to China in natural gas power plant development. In the fall of 2024, ERCOT was tracking 56 gigawatts in large load connection requests. 1 year later, in the fall of 2025, that quadrupled to 205 gigawatts. And more than 70% of the requests were from data centers. Only 10% were from Bitcoin miners. And I will tell you, Mr. Shelley and I were at a state affairs hearing last month. And one of the last speakers was an ERCOT staffer. And he said just last quarter, they had requests to connect 190 facilities. That is exponentially more than what they normally have. So peak demand could jump by 70% by 2031, just due to data center development increase. So let's talk about the environmental risks. As we discussed, there could be huge water losses. Data centers will go to a municipality, a groundwater district. If you're in one, we have 100 counties that aren't. They will go to a river authority. They will go to the groundwater district for wells, if need be. They can go to a mud, or in the case of one of Hood County's data center applications, they're going to a user of the Brazos River Authority and just amending the permit because Wolf Hollow is only using 2,500 out of 10,000 acre feet of water, and they're getting the water, subcontracting it from Wolf Hollow. Next, we've talked about water discharge. That's a concern because now some of these data centers have water treatment plants on their acreages, but again, the water discharge may be going into some of our pristine rivers and lakes eventually. And some of our water treatment centers, especially if it's got that concentrated discharge, cannot deal with that concentrated amount of chemicals like I discussed earlier. Many data centers are still connecting to to the grid besides bringing their own power, but we will still have a strain on the grid. We are predicting power rates for residents to go up by 30% in just a few short years. We have an increase in greenhouse gases. I'll get into that in a minute. Noise pollution, I'll also talk about that in a few minutes. Light pollution, a secured facility needs to have its lights on all night long. So that can affect people's sleep, etc. There's health risks. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I'm very concerned. I'm a farm girl from Iowa, native, and I am very concerned about the loss of valuable agricultural lands. Right now in Hood County, there are 9 data centers that would take over 9,000 acres. GW Ranch, proposed in Pecos, 8,000 acres. Fermi America, over 5,000 acres. These are huge swaths of land that we are losing. Next, you will see that I have a threat to livestock. Livestock will be stressed if there's decibel levels of noise that are above 85 decibels. Humans will too. But we are talking livestock that will be stressed and will not reproduce. Your horses and cattle will not reproduce if they are very stressed, and that is another concern. Next, the consumer risks. I already mentioned we may be looking at a 30% jump in electric bills in a few short years. We're already seeing our electric bills go up from a few years ago. And then lastly, cities and counties may be faced with stranded assets. And I'm going to talk about some of the situations that have occurred in a few minutes. Next. So let's talk about air pollution and heat. When you co-locate a data center with a natural gas plant, or oftentimes they may be peaker plants, which are quick start natural gas plants, you're going to see pollution emanating from that. Nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, those are the 2 components of ozone, sulfur dioxide, formaldehyde, and particulate matter. On-site diesel generators used for backup can add to this pollution problem. There is a huge data center being proposed in El Paso by Meta. That alone has 813 generators on site, not unlike the ones you see up there. A University of Cambridge study found that data centers can create heat islands, raising land surface temperatures between 3.6 and 16 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this has not been peer-reviewed, but I consider University of Cambridge a respected university. So research has shown that sustained exposure to the pollutants and the fine particles we call particulates, it's less than the size of less than 1/1000th of a hair, can increase the risk of asthma, cardiovascular disease, and cause premature deaths. Next slide. So I'm going to get a little bit more into the health effects. Noise levels can reach over 90 decibels, causing hearing loss. Humans can only take 8 hours of 85 decibels before they experience permanent hearing loss. Some of these data centers often go over 85 decibels, 90, 95 decibels. Think of having a chainsaw or a lawnmower a few feet away from you all day long. There's all-night lighting, which I mentioned before, can disrupt natural biorhythms for sleeping including the melatonin production and sleep-wake cycles that we all deal with. I'll tell you a short story. I have this great video of folks that live in Virginia in Loudoun County, where there are 70 data centers. Families cannot get their kids to sleep. They can feel the vibration in their windows. Some have changed their windows in their entire house, trying to get rid of the vibration. You can feel it through your body. Some have moved their families down into the basement to be able to sleep. And if anybody wants that video, I'll be happy to send it to them. So that is what some people are experiencing. And by 2030, data centers could cause almost 600,000 asthma-related cases, 1,300 premature deaths nationwide, exceeding 1/3 of the annual asthma deaths, and more than $20 billion in health costs. That information came from the University of California and Caltech. Next slide. So I want to show this slide because I want to show you the difference of then and what we are experiencing now. Go to the middle column that says power. In the old days, a few years ago, the amount of power that a data center might need would be 291 or 391 megawatts, 252 to 205 megawatts. What are we looking at now for the largest planned projects? GW Ranch in Pecos, 7,650 megawatts. The Matador project, which is Fermi America, Rick Perry's project up in Amarillo, if it was totally built out, it would be 11 gigawatts of power, and a gigawatt is 1,000 megawatts. Caldwell Valley in Uland, 4 gigawatts. So it's exponentially bigger than just a few years ago, what we're looking at for power requirements. Next slide. So let's look at some in the DFW area. QTS and DFW 10 and 11 were just announced a few weeks ago, over $1 billion worth of projects between the two of them. Fort Worth, tomorrow, is going to vote on tax abatements for what I'm calling Veal Ranch, which is in the west side of Fort Worth, and Weston Gardens, which is the southeast side of Fort Worth. And then just recently I was contacted by some folks in Maypearl that have a 2,785-acre data center campus with 2 gas plants planned for it. So those are just a few of the projects in the DFW area. Next slide. So let's look at Hood County. This is where I've spent most of my time the last 6 months as far as data centers go. By the way, Somervell County just this morning unanimously passed a resolution asking for more regulation on data centers. Henderson County is voting on a resolution tomorrow. So what I want to call to your attention about Hood County, we have 9 projects. Black Mountain just announced within the last 2 weeks a 1,600-acre project, and that's why I don't have that much information about them. But what we're seeing with some of these companies that want to bring data centers in is that some of them appear to be speculators, real estate speculators, that are looking to flip these permits or lease the land out to someone else. And it's not easy to get information about these facilities. As a matter of fact, you're going to see third from the top, an outfit named Bilateral Energy. And just to give you an example of some of the things we're coming across, if you looked at Bilateral Energy today, you will see that it is a one-page website. You can find out the company came into being in 2024. It looks like a big business card. There's no tabs. There's no about us. There's nothing about their projects, etc. The city of Granbury annexed 2,090 acres for this project. Recently, the citizens found out that the owner of the project is from Dubai with a Dubai address. We have other speculators in that county that have taken large projects like Comanche Circle and have actually tried to do carve-outs of smaller projects and renamed themselves Panther Generation, and everyone knows who the original company is. That is just some of the things that we're seeing in Hood County. And so imagine 9 projects in the second smallest county in Texas. That's what they're looking at. Next slide. So promises are made, but not necessarily kept. Data centers are coming to Texas promising lots of jobs, but most of the jobs are temporary during construction. This is not unlike pipeline work, because often with pipelines, you have crews that come in from out of state with their trailers and their RVs, and they come in and help build something, and then they go away. I had somebody tell me the other day that hotel rooms in Abilene were like $400 and $500 a night. You will see comments that citizens are having a hard time even getting to work during the day. A data center, in the end, only needs, a smaller one only needs 20 people to run a data center. A larger one may take 80, if it's really large, 100 people. So that's how many permanent jobs you're going to end up with. As far as tax revenue, I'm sure everyone on the Commissioner's Court is familiar with counties giving 10-year tax abatements. But what they could end up with is stranded assets. And I'll talk about that in a moment. A lot of these companies, the larger ones, are promising local investment, maybe building a new fire station, maybe training for kids at the high school with new tech jobs. But once again, if these projects are canceled and you've built out infrastructure as a city to help these projects get off the ground, you're going to be at a loss. As we all know, the state of Texas already provides sales tax exemptions for equipment for data centers that will invest $200 million in a data center over a 5-year period and creating at least 20 jobs. I happen to have the sheet in front of me. And if you invest $500 million with 40 qualifying jobs and agree to contract for at least 20 megawatts, you can get a bigger tax incentive. Next slide. So this is a picture from Midlothian. In November of last year, Governor Abbott had a press event announcing Google's $40 billion investment in AI infrastructure through 2027 in Texas. But frankly, we need to slow this down. Next slide. So let's talk about a cautionary tale. I mentioned this before. Fermi America, about a year ago, was probably the largest project in the country at 5,000 acres. It isn't anymore. 11 gigawatts, 2,500 million gallons of water a day is what Amarillo committed to, with an MOU for 10 million 10 million gallons of water per day. And this project is now in trouble. It has absolutely no tenants. Last fall, it applied, it rolled out with an IPO, an initial public offering, and this was only a short offering during the fall. They had only a $150 million tenant as an investor that pulled out at the last minute. The stock dropped, the first day it dropped 34%. It's dropped now 80%. You can probably pick up the stock for $4 or $5 a share. Just at the end of April, the CEO left Fermi America, this project, and then the CFO is also gone. So there are no tenants for this project, and there is no construction work going on at all on this Fermi America project. Next slide. Let's talk about bankruptcies. In February of 2025, a crypto miner, NFNA Group, filed for bankruptcy due to numerous problems, including the fact that Core Scientific went bankrupt, who they partner with. At one time, it operated over 5,000 servers, including a site in Crystal City, Texas. In November 2025, the Relis Project in Bryan filed for Chapter 11, which left Texas A&M, the bank, and the contractors on the hook after a financial partner backed out of the project. Now, since this bankruptcy, another data center facility has picked up the project and is going to finish it. But you still had stranded bankers and investors on that project. Closer to home, in February 2023, a 10-megawatt data center facility in Fort Worth was auctioned off by Hilco after it filed for bankruptcy within 5 years after they spent $6.7 million remodeling the facility to be converted to a data center. It was a warehouse facility. Next slide.
Oops, sorry.
So we are looking at projects delayed or canceled, and numerous reports, including one from Bloomberg Energy, has reported that about half the data centers nationwide slated to open in this year will either face delays or cancellations. And I would say it's from investors backing out because the projects are having problems in one form or another. So some states are blocking projects. Between April and June 2025, 20 data center projects valued at $98 billion in 11 states were blocked or delayed and local opposition, due to local opposition and state-level pushback. That equates to 2/3 of those projects in those 11 states. In this year, 15 states are already developing legislation around data centers for more regulation, citing, etc. Next slide. So this is Hood County, and I want to say that there are many Texas counties now asking the state for more data center regulation. Besides Johnson County, we have Wise, Hood, Hunt, Polk, Tom Green, Bosque, Carnes, Fayette, Grayson, Hill, Lampasas, Delta, Ellis, Cameron, Anderson, which just last week, Somerville's this morning. Henderson's voting on theirs tomorrow. And Commissioner Woolley and I were talking. I know that many counties are looking to Johnson to model their own resolutions after. Hunt County actually not only passed a resolution, but they coupled it with a citizen's petition that they're collecting signatures on, and Anderson County is doing the same. Next slide. So what is the state doing? At the legislature, we have something we call interim charges. That is what usually happens between sessions. The various committees in the Senate and the House will look at varying issues or bills that were passed in the last session and analyze how are they doing? Or do we need to tweak something? Or has a new issue come up that we probably will have to legislate next session? So there are 5 committees looking at interim charges. Business and Commerce, which is chaired by Senator Schwertner, is going to look at managing data center growth in the state. Water, Ag, and Rural Affairs in the Senate, chaired by Senator Perry. He's considered the water czar of the Senate. He has a hearing already scheduled for September 1st to assess water demands of energy-intensive technologies. The Finance Committee, chaired by Senator Huffman on July 27th, is looking at these sales exemptions that I mentioned. The state has lost $1 billion in sales tax. It is expected to lose $3.2 billion in the next 2 years if we keep on the sales exemption track that we're on. In the House, currently chaired, Natural Resources is chaired by Representative Cody Harris. He is looking at data center water use, and conservation. There is a huge concern in natural resources stemming back to the special session of the fact that we have 100 counties without groundwater districts or only in partial groundwater that are other 144. Some of them are only partially in a groundwater district. That means that if a data center went to one of those 100 counties, it could start drilling water wells tomorrow because there's no one to get a permit from because there's no groundwater district. There's also talk about changing the rule of capture that the state of Texas has had since 1904. Some of you may have heard about the hedge fund manager in Dallas who wanted to drill 15 billion gallons worth of water off 2 ranches in East Texas and commoditize and sell that water. That, too, has prompted concern about groundwater districts not in existence on some of these counties. Lastly, State Affairs, chaired by Representative Ken King from Canadian. He's already had one hearing April 9th about the status of electrical loads and our regulatory framework around ERCOT. ERCOT is now considering looking at these connections in batches. There was also talk of making applicants pay higher fees to kind of weed out the speculators on these projects. Next slide. So what should Texas do? These are our suggestions. We should slow down the process while guardrails are put in place to protect our natural resources. We should require higher fees for power applications, as was mentioned in Natural Resources a month or so ago. We should require record keeping of water usage and electrical usage and the backup generators. Right now, the Water Development Board doesn't require it, and we need to know how much is actually being used. We need to include data center water demand and state water planning, water plans are updated every 5 years, and we should have that information. We should rescind, in our opinion, the state sales tax exemption. We should require data centers to be more sustainable, use the most efficient cooling systems, be energy efficient, perhaps use reclaimed water instead of potable water. We should locate data centers only in industrial areas and far from residential areas. Some of the folks I know in Toller can hear the Bitcoin miner 5 miles away on a windy day. We should ban non-disclosure agreements regarding projects because citizens have a right to know, in our opinion, what goes on in their city or county. We should reform groundwater regulations, get all our counties with some kind of protection or in a groundwater district. And lastly, give counties more control over what happens with land use in their county. Nobody knows their locality better than the county where these things are going in, or the city. Next slide. So thank you very much. Adrian and I would be happy to entertain questions. Thank you.
I know one question I have, Ms. Beving, is you mentioned the failure rate and stranded infrastructure, you know, in the event of bankruptcy or whatever the case may be. The related question I have is, how long does these servers, that internal equipment, how long does that equipment last? And when that equipment is outdated or becomes obsolete or is no longer functional, what happens to that?
To be honest, I don't have the answer to that question. Do you, Adrian? Adrian apparently doesn't either. Just to be open, we're not engineers, and not unlike a lot of you, we are trying to learn as much as we can, as fast as we can. I wish I knew the answer to that, but it would be something we should know, because where is all of that going to end up?
Well, it's obviously it's got to go somewhere, right?
Right.
And, you know, kind of similar to these wind turbines, the blades and parts of those that have to be replaced, you know, they ultimately go somewhere and they're going in holes in the ground, basically. So I don't know what happens to them, but that seemed like that would
that would be good to talk to legislators about, because as we know, wind turbine blades, solar panels, et cetera, now have to be recycled or disposed of properly. Yes. And the same should happen with all these servers.
Now, Senator Perry's presentation week before last that was at the West Texas Regional County Judge Commissioners Conference. He mentioned that they had been down to SpaceX and in a meeting with Elon Musk had said that within a period of 3 to 5 years that they could have data centers out in space on satellites. Any input or any comment on that?
You know, I would think because of the cost of fuel to send any kind of rocket up in space, I just see that as cost prohibitive. I don't see that as being viable unless they come down with the cost of what it takes to actually construct, build, and host the servers for those kind of facilities. I don't see that happening.
Well, he said he could do it. He didn't say what it's going to cost. So
Adrian's got a comment.
Well, I mean, Rita's right about that, right? Bringing something into space requires an amazing amount of fuel, and then the maintenance requires, you know, an additional potentially manned space flight. A couple of years ago, there was a proposal, and there were some exploratory projects to put data centers in the ocean, right? So underwater with the same idea. They're away from land. There's cooling right there. And what they found was that it was fantastically expensive to maintain, right? As soon as you have a problem, you've now got probably a manned expedition down into the ocean to repair what would otherwise be a fairly straightforward repair job. I suspect you would find the same problem almost immediately with data centers in orbit. I think 3 to 5 years is fantasy on something like that ever happening.
You know, if fear has been a driver behind most of this, and I think it's pretty safe to say that today, if you wasn't fearful when you got here, you might be now. But I would just, you got to look at how many are already up and running, and you got to look at how much data is going to be needed in the future. We hear from so many legislators that say, well, it's the biggest drive behind this is national security. You hear all of these things. And we look at, and it's been mentioned, so many things here today have been mentioned that are on all of our minds. Resources, land, land application. It's not just the data centers. Now you have the 5,000 acre solar fields to help accommodate that. So land use and land management. And what does this mean for residents that have bought into new neighborhoods and invested their life there? So, quality of life it was mentioned. So many of these things. Sitting in these seats, the state of Texas basically mandates that we shall permit for platting, but as it was mentioned earlier, anything over 10 acres, you really don't have to plat. We don't have a whole lot to say about any of it other than we will be going to the legislature. Some of the things that concern me with Senator Perry's discussion have to do with what if we don't participate? By participation, I mean abating. We've had one come to us, or was it two, or was it the same twice? But we denied those abatements. But ladies and gentlemen, the legislature is going to make sure that there are guidelines that we must follow after this next session. There's too much money being invested in this state for them to say, oh, we're going to listen to those county officials. It's not going to happen. So what we've got to do is prepare for what do we do representing the citizens, and what can we do? That is the issue. In abatement process now, that is the only teeth that we have in the skin of the game if we want to have any kind of say in what they bring to our county. Okay, let's talk about that. They're going to go out here and they're going to dig up 500 acres of dirt to move over here on this property they bought because it's in a floodplain. They tore up our road. We didn't have any provisions in there to recover from that. We got emergency responders. We got first responders and people's lives at risk because they don't know what the contaminants are within that facility. We know there'll be lithium storage batteries. We know there'll be a lot of things that they're not familiar with. And we've asked them, standing right out here in front of us, well, where's the training for our people? Who's going to provide that? Those are things that we can only ask if we abate. So understand from our position, and at some point there may come with legislation that says that those counties don't want to abate, they have no authority to create a cleanup bond. And what I mean by that, and I've got an article that I'm going to send to the legislators, but I was told, Commissioner Woolley was told, that the only way that we could ask for a cleanup bond, what I mean by a cleanup bond is to the point these fail. And what becomes of the contents, what becomes of the lithium battery storage, what becomes of a freestanding building that is no longer used or maintained, and what does that erosion and what does that impact look like going forward? And we were told that the only way we could have a say in that is that we require a bond up front in our process of abatement. My push for all of you is going to be that the state demands a bond up front before permitting from the state. We're so far behind on all of this. There's so many of them that have been proposed I think there's 197 now in Texas that are being considered. There's a lot of land that's being purchased by developers and shell companies and big money business out there that actually will never come to light, but the fear is there that they will. Water and power is a huge concern. You had mentioned earlier in regards to data centers, the crypto, that the state will subsidize them in regards to if they need the power. What I haven't been able to get from a representative yet is that we have another Storm Erie. Somebody's got a call. If we have another Storm Erie, and you've got 300-400 of these data centers up and running that are drawing gigawatts, not just megawatts, but gigawatts. What does that look like? And because early on, when we started hearing about data centers, well, that power will be shut down, and we're not going to let residents and we're not going to let businesses suffer from power. We're already hearing about rolling blackouts on the facility that's not even built. There's no way to shut those things down. If they shut down for 5 minutes, according to Senator Perry, they'll basically implode. So there's huge concerns there. But ladies and gentlemen, it's today is to learn more, and you brought a lot of good information. But what I would like to see is anything, we have a dense population here, a growing county, where we are all concerned about water, quality of life, air, wind, the noise that comes from all of these. But, out in West Texas, where maybe they're being welcomed, they don't have the density. It was mentioned that they put them in an industrial area. Well, that may or may not be attainable due to water constraints. But there is so much unanswered still here going forward in regards to how do we, sitting in these seats, number one, protect the people, and how do we can comply with what is coming, whether we want it or not. We have folks here come here that are upset that they bought some land and now there's a development going in, and they want to stop that. Well, if you can't own it as far as you can see it, you can't really control what's coming. And a whole lot of what we're seeing now in these land grabs and these mass land grabs is the hope that they can flip that to Google. They're basically, they've been here for 16, 18 months. They're doing their homework. They're doing all the utilities, making sure there's infrastructure there to sustain whatever size of footprint that they want to bring. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. So you'll appreciate Mr. Woolley, thank you for putting this on today. But it is, it's just so much that we don't know. Right? We don't know what we don't know. But we can tell you this: they're coming. We're going to have data centers in this county, and the state of Texas is going to see to it. And they're not going to give us the authority to do it. And so what we're going to be doing is down there trying to protect what we can, to say that if this data center fails, the state of Texas needs to require that bond up front, not put it on local leaders to have to abate something in order to negotiate. We're not in a negotiating business up here when it comes to taxpayer dollars on something that's already being so well groomed and taken care of by the state and the sales tax that they're not paying, and so many things that we don't get to offer our local businesses. So I'm going to stop. There's a whole lot here to say, and we got an audience full of people here, I'm sure, that have concerns or want to say what they have to say. But I just wanted to put it out there that we all, everyone in this room, you need to reach out to your legislators and say, hey, why here? And what are you going to do to protect us? And I'll stop there, Judge.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do want to, do y'all have more? I've got some citizens that have signed up to speak first, but I want to make sure y'all have an opportunity to wrap up if y'all.
Well, I was just going to say to Commissioner Bailey, we have surety bonds for drillers, oil and gas drilling in this state. Why not have them for data centers? Before a bill was passed that counties couldn't do this anymore. All that, those thousands of construction folks are going to bring lots of trucks and damage to your roads. Why not make them do a transportation bond like we used to do with pipeline companies? That got axed during the last legislature, but that's a thought. One other thing I want to mention is the groundwater district, the Upper Trinity Groundwater District in Hood County has put a pause on all groundwater well permits that are 50 million gallons a year or more, while they put new rules in place for large water well applications. So I just want to mention that.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to try to put moratoriums out as Hood County did. Mr. Bettencourt jumped right on that. You know, and that's
He's referring to the groundwater district, though, not the county.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, the groundwater district, but still, just because they say, I mean, the state of Texas and TCEQ and all of those players are going to have a say in it.
If I may, Commissioner, I think you're absolutely right. You've hit on the difficulty for counties today, which is that your only leverage is through the granting of a tax abatement or of a local development.
We have no permitting authority, sir.
No, sir. It's a tough spot for you to be in. I think, a statewide solution like a surety bond across the whole industry would be great. I think maybe, giving counties some limited authority, a certain set of controls that you could adopt by resolution would make a lot of sense. To your point about, a Winter Storm Uri-sized event and how this industry will respond, we have that rulemaking, Senate Bill 6, right now, which is going to make our largest loads, 75 megawatts and greater, required to register as controllable loads. But that will come at a cost, right? They will have backup generators, as Rita discussed, and as soon as they shut off, those will come on. And whether it's a few dozen or a few hundred, they will run throughout that event, and that will have local impacts for folks. There's also the large set of facilities, what we call kind of the medium load facilities, between about 25 and 75 megawatts that probably ought to have been included in that list of large load controllable resources, but has not. So the Senate Bill 6 rulemaking is going to get us some of the way there, but I don't think we know yet, how the grid is going to perform in another event of that size. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move into public participation. I do want to reiterate, this has come up a couple of times, but to this point, the Commissioners Court has never taken any action to incentivize or assist the creation of a data center. That's not something we have done. And in fact, to this point, to my knowledge, no member of the Commissioners Court has signed a non-disclosure agreement about any of these things. These are not things that we are having in-depth discussions. I won't say that no data centers have come knocking, and we've got tire kickers of all sorts with all sorts of industries, and they call and they ask questions, and there have been some preliminary conversations, but there is nothing that has come to the point of anybody applying for a permit that I'm aware of. There is not detailed negotiations going on that are behind the scenes or that are quiet that we're keeping from you guys, and we have not taken action to incentivize or attract these users to the county. As Commissioner Bailey said, that doesn't mean that they won't end up here either way, but to this point, we have not been out advertising for data centers either.
And we may not even know they're a data center when they come apply.
Absolutely
because
true.
They'll come in under an LLC or something of a different name altogether, and basically just ask to plat a certain size square footage of a building. And so, yeah, it's very important that you guys know that.
Yeah, they may permit a warehouse and fill it with computers, and that is something we're asking for significantly more transparency from the state so that we know when those sort of things are happening. All right, with that, we're going to move to public participation. The first person I have had sign up to speak is Ms. Mona Oni. Thank you, Ms. Oni, and good to see you.
You came all the way from Claude to this meeting? Well, you get the prize for coming the longest distance, I have a feeling. So. Okay. Yeah, I was through Claude yesterday afternoon, so not much has changed other than the data centers.
Yeah, we're glad to see all of you in the middle of the day, which is.
All right, I've got a Jennifer Thomas. Yes, ma'am. If you want to please come to the microphone, if you don't mind, so we can hear you. Sorry, the acoustics of this room are terrible. It's hard to hear if you're not in the microphone.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Judge, for clarifying that there are not any current proposals.
Please speak directly into the microphone, otherwise it doesn't go onto the broadcast.
Just push it up, it's fine.
There you go.
I'm going to break it.
You won't break it.
You won't break it.
Push it on. Mr. Bailey hadn't broke it yet, so you'll be good.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for the presenters. I think y'all did a wonderful job answering a lot of questions. As an environmental scientist and a taxpaying member of this community, I just want y'all to know I feel like I speak for most of your constituents when we do not want this. And I disagree with the theory of inevitability. I think that there are things, I'm not sure what that is yet, but I do think there needs to be stopgaps to help prevent this if that's not what the community wants. At the end of the day, the government works for us. And I just want that known that we do not want this.
Understood, yeah. We don't know what we don't know is coming. That's the problem.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think that's entirely consistent with the message we've sent to the legislature, asking for the ability to do what our citizens want us to do from the local level. I know a lot of the names of counties on that list that have signed resolutions of support. Commissioner Woolley and I have sent drafts to those counties and really tried to, if not lead the charge, participate in it and spread the word among counties that we do need some level of local regulation over these kind of uses. It's certainly impact and certainly a quality of life question, as Commissioner Bailey alluded to. All right, Clayton Tucker. Yes, sir. Come forward.
Howdy.
Howdy.
So first off, I want to thank y'all for the opportunity, and I want to thank you for your skepticism of these AI data centers. I am the secretary of the Texas Farmers Union, also a member of a lot of other farm groups. I'm a farmer myself, Lampasas County, but I was also probably one of the statewide candidates that just got mentioned, running for agriculture commissioner, but I really want to focus on a couple things. Rita did an excellent job of covering the basics. She actually took about 90% of my talking points today. But there's a couple things I just really want to bring to y'all's attention. So if these data center folks do come, you know some other questions. First off, sir, to answer your question about how long the infrastructure lasts, it lasts 3 years. Computer chips, as they are currently designed, will break down about 3 years in. So I want to talk a little bit more about how this affects agriculture and how it affects livestock and farming. So we've heard about the noise. It also creates heat domes of 20 degrees within 5 miles. Texas already gets pretty hot during the summers as it is, so this could be detrimental. I've talked to cattle ranchers near more Bitcoin mining areas where they have not had a new calf in about 2 years, and that's about when the data centers got built. This constant stillbirths. We're seeing reports that chickens lay 50% less eggs. We're seeing cattle, goats, and sheep lose 30% body condition. And of course, that heat really does harm. It harms corn, it harms wheat, it harms sorghum, it really does harm a lot of other plants. So that's why the Farmers Union in particular is calling just for a temporary moratorium until we resolve these resource issues. I also want to talk a little bit about some other problems these data centers are causing. They're about to cause some pretty massive inflation throughout our entire country. For instance, there's a talk about power generation. Well, we're about to have a very massive shortage on the gas turbine generation cores. Those are the things inside the gas turbines that spin, that create the electricity. They take around 18 months, plus or minus a little bit to make, and we're basically out. So the consumers will be facing that. There's also a lot of problems with how it affects electronics. These things are about to get a lot more expensive because RAM prices, computer prices have quadrupled within the last year. And also a fun little side note, in my due opinion, AI is a bubble. It is a bubble like the dot-com bubble, in some ways very similar to 2008, where you have 4 companies trading money back and forth. And the Iran war, regardless what people think of it, that it is bursting that bubble right now. 2 places in the world produce most of the helium, Texas and Qatar. Without helium, there is no computer chips. Qatar's offline for at least another 6 months, even if everything ends today, straight reopens. So these data centers are slowing down, as Rita mentioned. 50% of them are already being cut, canceled, or delayed, and that number is likely to increase. So I just really, again, want to thank y'all for standing up to these folks, for just really asking tough questions. Another question to ask, and this is also for the general audience, if you know of any other folks, there was a group, not in Texas, somewhere out west, that was able to stop a data center coming in because of the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act says that any facility that's related to national security cannot use components made in China. All these supply chains lead back to China. I partly work in supply chains. I've been fighting big tech for trying to rig our international trade deals for several years. They'll say we can't build them here, we'll go to China. That's a complete lie. That's complete propaganda. If they could build these things in other countries, they would find the poorest country and build them all there. They have to build them here. So that's why they're trying to build them here. So again, I just want to thank y'all for your skepticism. Thank y'all for your leadership on this issue. This is an incredible issue. It really could harm a lot of our agriculture folks, and even folks not in agriculture. It could harm a lot of them as well. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to come out today.
I appreciate your comments, and I think that also encapsulates a lot of how a lot of us feel about property rights, that you can do what you want to on your own property, but when you start impacting your neighbors, then it's a problem, and that's when we have to figure out a better way forward. All right, I've had somebody sign up, I believe the last name is Lewis. Sorry, I can't read the first name. Desi? I apologize. Yes, ma'am.
Desi Lewis, is it?
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. And again, I'm going to repeat that I'm very glad that you brought this lady in to speak to us about this and give us more detail about what data centers can do to our community, to our environment, to our state. But the 2 main things I got out of this, because much of it I already knew, is go slow, and that we need to put pressure on our legislators and let them know how we feel about this, because we're the ones being affected. The farmers, the children. If these centers with their vibrations, what is it going to do to our children and their learning skills? How are they going to grow up and be productive citizens? So we really need to approach it in a way that, as a conglomerate. I saw a list of counties on there that are having problems. Why can't those counties, including us, get together and put together a proposal for our legislators? Why can't we do something from our end? I know that I'm willing to go protest at the Capitol, and more people need to think like that. We can't just sit back and let this roll over us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, if I could respond to part of that. In response to the number of counties there, through our County Judge and Commissioner Association of the state of Texas, there's 3 regional associations within that. The first one of the year met two weeks ago, the West Texas Conference. They put together and we have a list of resolutions as an associations from the entire state, and there's a new one, and it began at the West Texas Conference 2 weeks ago about data centers. It'll come to our North and East region in July. Well, it'll go to the South Texas region in June, And then in July, our North and East region meets, and we'll also review that resolution. And then October, we'll vote on that as a body of the entire entire membership of the statewide County Judge Commissioners Association, and adopt that resolution as a statewide unified effort in requesting some of these things that Rita mentioned. So there is a coordinated effort in putting together those resolutions at the state level. So I wanted you to know that.
Commissioner, I know we have a couple of mayors in the room, and I don't know if TML engages in similar behavior, but I think we would certainly be happy to be partners in trying to have the cities join tech. It's not very often that we push together in the legislature for the same thing, but we often have similar interests. And so maybe another way that we can approach the problem, if we can have every county and every city represented asking for the same thing on behalf of our citizens, maybe we can accomplish something together. I have next Lou Ann Langley. Ms. Langley, if you want to come forward.
Wow. For the first time, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say about all this.
That is a rare occasion.
It is. You know, Larry. You know, this blows my mind because fighting the PFAS for so long doesn't compare to this. I mean, the things that can happen with this is devastating. It scares the hell out of me, what she said and what all y'all have said. And excuse my language, but I want y'all to know that we support you, all of you, and whatever we can do to help to stop this, to slow it down, we're there for you. I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reach out to our local legislators. Give them your opinion about all of this. We need your help, so thank you.
All right. The last person I've had sign up to speak is Miss Rebecca Townsend.
First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. I'm just going to pop this off because that's not going to work for me. I want to say thank you to Rita. I also want to say thank you to the commissioners for bringing this whole subject to the public. I would respectfully request more transparency, especially at the state level, and I know that y'all don't necessarily have control over that. But I just want to state it for the record that we need to know as citizens how to find out when data centers have applied for a permit. And it shouldn't just be a TCEQ website lookup, because that doesn't tell you hardly anything. And a lot of them are hidden behind the LLCs and everything else. I also want to tell the public, you've got to start putting your ear to who's buying your properties, who's buying up your property around you, because that's important. As a real estate agent, and I own a company in this county, I am starting to look up who is trying to buy our properties. I've heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I would love to know if anybody in this room knows it's true, that George Creek Ranch has sold off part of their acreage and that they are trying to put in a data center there. I don't know if that's true. I'm not trying to spread a rumor, but we have to have some public knowledge to be able to fight this. I also would recommend that all of us in Johnson County form a Johnson County Alliance, similar to the Edwards Aquifer Alliance that they have in Hill Country, so that they can actually fight things like the muds and the different things that shouldn't be coming necessarily in our county that also have the PFAS chemicals. So I just want to state for the record that there's more going on than just the data centers. And unfortunately, my husband and I are firsthand, and Commissioner Bailey knows this because we have spoken to him many times, but we're having to deal with just a little old Targa station, gas power plant, liquid propane, I believe is what it mainly started as, it's becoming a giant, and it is right near our land. We bought 27.5 acres in Johnson County to leave a legacy to our children and talk about neighbor. They're not good neighbors. The noise, the decibel level for several days in a row, we ended up changing all of our windows to triple pane windows, and guess what? We can still hear it in our home. We can hear it over our noise canceling fan. And if that's happening with a little old Targa station, what's going to happen with a data center that's been talked about? And that decibel level, we've measured the decibel levels. Commissioner Bailey's helped us. They said they're finally going to do a wall. I'll let you know if that happens. We've been fighting this for 6 years to get a wall built in a complete rural neighborhood, that you've got a wall around one that's right there off of 67 that nobody even cares because the road noise is covering it. But you're not requiring a wall. There should be a wall requirement for any little gas pump station, anything that's built in a neighborhood, period. And this was built after we were under contract on the land. It didn't come until after we built and we were assured it would be quiet. So that to say thank you again, but I want to bring awareness to everybody. If anybody's interested in building a Johnson County Alliance, come talk to me. Rebecca Townsend, my number is public. You can look me up online, Google me. I am there. Let me know, because I want lawyers, anyone that's willing to devote their time. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Could I respond to a little bit
Yes,
what she said?
of course.
You know, and I know there's several, or I don't know if they're still here, but there are several realtors here, or there were earlier. And as a 40-year real estate broker in this county, and I'm on inactive status now, I'm not active, but, you know, there's something called deed restrictions that sellers can be advised of. And I've actually had people that have sold property come to me afterwards and say, well, I didn't know they were going to put solar panels on my place. And we've seen in this court, and moving from deed restrictions aren't enforced by Commissioner's Court, but we've seen a case that started here and ended up in district court over at the Gwen where deed restrictions were upheld. They will hold together. So advise those clients, those sellers, to restrict their property and protect their neighbors and their legacy.
Yes, sir. I agree. It's already on the plan.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate everybody being here today. This is an issue that impacts all of us. It's something that, fortunately, we're not being asked to make any decision today. There's not any action to take today, but there is an opportunity to, I think, get on the same page about the direction that we would like to go.
Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you. I didn't really expect to come up here and speak, but I think it was something that I didn't hear that I thought probably needed to be said.
Sir, could you state your name?
Yes, sir. Sure, I
we
will.
Don't have it.
Yes, my name is Clayton West. I'm a farmer here in Johnson County. I'm 23 years old. Lived here my entire life, and I've gotten kind of involved with the data center and things that are happening. And it's hard for me to stand up here and talk in front of these people, but I just think it needs to be said that what we're hearing from some of our leaders, which is y'all, our elected officials, I'm not sure that it's what we, the people in the room, want to hear. I would ask everyone in this room, if you are against the idea of a data center, would you please raise your hand if you're in this room? So I would say, if you're anti-data center, hands up. No data centers. Yeah. The vast majority of constituents in this room, and I didn't get to see this side. I saw one hand up over there, 2 hands. But I think if you go to any county courthouse and across the state of Texas, you're going to see the same thing. But we're not hearing from our elected officials is we're going to fight this. I think Commissioner Bailey said, there's only so much that we can do. But we don't want to hear that. I mean, we would like to hear, we are against this, we don't want it here, and we're going to fight for our citizens.
Sir, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear, just to tell you what you want to hear. Now, let me settle you down.
Sure,
settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
We have.
I apologize. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a politician. It's hard for me to get up here and speak. But when you say, there's nothing we can do, we're just going to roll over. And
no, we're not going to roll over. What I was telling you is the state of Texas, everything that this court or any court, 254 across this state, we are all working for the state. We are an extension of the state. If the state says that we don't have the authority, we can stand up and say all day, well, we're going to stand up and fight. We don't have that power that you're asking us.
But you could at least come out and say it.
We have said it. We denied one right up here unanimously not long ago.
Sure.
And we didn't know what we were dealing with till they got here. That's the problem with all of this.
Sure.
What you don't understand, and I'm going to try to help you and everybody in this room understand, it is a secretive game that is played.
Oh, I know it's very secretive.
Okay.
Sure.
And to the point that was brought up earlier about be careful, people start buying up lands. I saw your Facebook post a couple of months ago. It got to me. And but I sympathize with everything that you have brought here today. You're a third. I know your family. I know Ronnie. I've been knowing the West family ever since I've been here. But what you're asking us to do is to stand up and say, not in this county. And we can stand up and say, not in this county. But we can also be removed from office by the governor for fighting state statutes. And so moratoriums, that word's been used. Hood County tried to do one. Senator Paul Boedeker, who is a big proponent of data centers, sent a message really quick. You don't need to be putting moratoriums out. You don't have the authority to do that. The threat didn't get to the point, I will remove you, but that was going to be the next step. So everything that you're saying in regards to local leaders, we got mayors here in this city that are here today. We have environmental officers that are in this room here today.
Sure.
And we have a court here that is unanimous in protecting the rights of our citizens. And that don't just include water and land. That's quality of life. Ms. Townsend has been dealing with something so minuscule compared to what we're talking about here, but it is affecting their health. So yes, I've done everything that I can legally do.
Right.
I cannot force that individual company that they're dealing with to build that sound barrier wall.
Sure.
But I could request it.
Right.
And so I've done that.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it yet, but yet they're saying it. But just
Sure.
There's a time to do what you're doing. The place is Austin, Texas, and we need people like you, young people that are the future of this state, to stand up.
Sure. I think I hear a lot of talk about we requested this and we sent a letter to here. I guess I'm just maybe more a man of action because requesting and letters I think only maybe gets you so far.
But when that's all that you can legally do, what more can you do?
Right. I just think it shouldn't have to be me that's having to make the post that says we don't want this. I think it should be y'all that are yelling that at the top of your lungs.
We can debate this all day, but I would just tell you that we are under a different rule of order. That we cannot just start putting fear in everybody. And like I said, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear just to tell you what you want to hear. That's a politician, son. I'm not a politician. I'm a statesman. And I will be in Austin, as I have been the last 3 sessions, fighting for the rights of you and everybody in this room regarding your property. And this is just another battle that we're going to have. And I totally suspect that data centers will dominate this whole next session. 3 years ago, it was bathroom bills. I think this is a little bit more serious, I hear you. I feel your frustration.
Sure.
But your anger is with the state of Texas. It's not with this court
No, no, no.
And it's not with many. There's 254 courts. There's 254 ways to do business in this state. But I assure you, out of 254, there's probably 10 counties that welcome this because it put money into their coffers. It built schools. It done a lot of things. And maybe it's good for them, but what's good for one county is not good for the state of Texas. We don't want them here. I'm going to stand up and tell you that now. We don't want them here, but do we have the power to stop that? Son, we don't have that power. But we need to have a little bit more say in what does happen with what the state imposes on us to protect you and your farm and your family.
Well, I just see, it seems to me like it'd be more effective instead of saying, I'm going to send a letter. It seems like it would be more effective to come out and blaze your own path and say, I'm a leader for this county. I'm not seeing many other counties do it. I'm going to come out and say that this is ridiculous.
I don't want to agree with you. Do you feel better? Okay, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you. But Miss Rebecca Townsend and her husband are here, and they will tell you that everything that we can do, we have attempted to do. So, but thank you for coming, and thank you for saying what you had to say. I mean, I appreciate a man being a man.
Sir, I'd just like to say, if we wanted them, I wouldn't have invited these people here to come present to us today. Okay? We don't want them. I said that a month ago whenever we passed that resolution. We don't want them. We don't have room for them. We don't need them. If they want them in Armstrong County, that's great. But there's not room for them here, and there's not a need for them here as far as we're concerned. We don't want them. You know, I don't want to get poison ivy every now and then, but sometimes I get it. Maybe you should run for county commissioner and you'll see what it's like. When Commissioner Bailey chooses to retire, I know you live in this.
Wow, that just happened, everybody. Thank you, Larry. I think you'd make a good one, but I'm going to share a real quick story. When I had a sand and gravel business in this county for years, and I would go out and haul gravel to these less than desirable roads where I thought, my God, these are taxpayers. You know, they deserve better than this. You know, you can't even get a school bus down here. And I thought, well, I'm going to run for this. I'm going to fix all that. As soon as I got in office, I called this man right here and I said, hey, Hull Road over here in Rio Vista, man, you can't even, I said, if it's raining, they got to put boards down beside the road to walk to their houses. He said, you can't do nothing about it. I said, well, I ran because I was going to do something about it. He said, you'll go to jail if you put a piece of equipment over there and haul some gravel in there because the state of Texas don't give you the authority to do that. That's no different than putting gravel in your own personal driveway because that is not a county maintained road, and it cannot be a county maintained road until it's brought up to spec. I was just about ready to retire right then. It wasn't a weekend, but I have learned that the wheels of government are so much different than the private sector, and I don't disagree with anything you said, son. But I will tell you that sitting in these seats and recognizing that doing the right thing will put you in jail sometimes, and that's a fair statement on a lot of what we get to do. But I will tell you, it's serious, and we take it serious.
And I'm still trying to keep him out of jail.
And I'm so appreciative.
I want to make one more comment before we close out the meeting, but in regard to what can we do and what do we do, I want to commend Commissioner Bailey and Commissioner Woolley, all of our court really, but the last legislative session, I know they drove down to Austin dozens or more times. They spent their own time, their own money, their own gas coming and going. I personally testified at a House hearing at 3 o'clock in the morning with Commissioner Woolley about an issue that was important to this county. It's not just calling a meeting and patting ourselves on the back. There's a lot of work that's behind the scenes. It's not just sending a letter. And Commissioner Bailey led the charge with that last session. I anticipate he'll do that again, communicating and representing us in Austin to be a voice for you guys. That's what he is. And While I would never advocate that any of us break the law to get there, I think we do everything that's inside the box trying to get things done for our citizens. And I think, again, Commissioner Bailey leads that charge. This will be on that list. This is very clear what our citizens want. I think the court is unanimous in what we want, and we're going to do what we can. We're going to go to work. That's what we do here.
If I may, just for the moment, before this meeting, before I heard this presentation, getting ready to support the resolution that Commissioner Woolley had referred to, this is a letter that I wrote yesterday that I want to get publicized in our state magazine. It's County Progress. It goes to every elected official in the state of Texas, county commissioners and above. Data centers seem to be the buzz across our state these days, mostly fear-driven regarding resources. Proponents telling us that technology is changing and bringing less demand on water and power generation. Remedies are underway. All of the things that we want to hear. Maybe all of these remedies will be worked out for future data centers. However, the facts remain, not all current data centers or those that will be constructed and built out will sustain themselves. We heard that here today. I didn't know that before today, but had a suspicion of it. Potential burden shall be placed on taxpayers in the event that natural resources no longer can support the individual data center, or the potential revenue loss from investors, and or the constant changing of technology outdates the facility and it ultimately fails. What then becomes of the contents and the impact to the environment regarding lithium storage and or contaminated water discharge, and for that matter, a freestanding structure unsupervised? The state legislators must act and lay out requirements for the developers and investors, requiring an appropriate bond amount for pro-action regarding such unintended cleanup ahead of this construction. By requiring us to abate as our only tool, saying we must negotiate through abatement to create this bond is not the answer. The state must not force counties and or cities unwarranted, massive, unfunded mandates by taking no action. Not all counties or cities are willing to abate, not only as a deterrent because they don't want them, and equally as important, legislators must consider depreciation of property values and protect the quality of life our citizens have built for themselves. I tell you, future budgets will suffer and the taxpayers will be on the hook for all things associated with all impacts due to failure. And I'm asking that you visit your representatives regarding our county's acceptance to dismay regarding legislation toward data centers or in either support or dismay. And this is a letter that's going to be sent out because what we heard here today from the presentation, from what Commissioner Woolley and I visited with Senator Perry, who's the leader in this, and from what the conversation has been for most likely 2 months now on a daily basis. This is something that is going to dominate this legislative session. And we have got to be as proactive as we can, and we have got to get all of you involved. So we don't want it here. We can't just do it. It's going to take all of us. So I'll leave you with that. But I just wanted to share with you that we are doing everything that we can. And this letter that will go out to all the legislators is the only power that I have to try to help with that.
Commissioner Woolley, this is Dan. I'm going to put a link to this video tomorrow. Once it's been processed, I'll put it up on the county websites if you want to share it with everyone.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay.
Ms. West.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Mandy Stewart. I just have a quick question. If data sitters come, and you guys, I know, got to go through a process. If they come and they're here, do you gentlemen and ladies have the authority to put certain disclaimers or clauses or whatever the word would be for that for the damages?
Only with an abatement, which means to you, the public, the minute we begin a process of abating, then it's going to look like we support them. So you bring up a very, very strong point of where we are, because it's easy to tell them, no, we're not abating. But then to your point, how do we have any say in what they do? The state of Texas only allows us that ability through the abatement process. So there is the answer.
So if you have the abatement process as individuals, you know, like my daddy's a goat farmer, sheep and goat farmer, what, like if his animals start dying or they can't reproduce, what does he do? You know, whenever you go to get a lawyer in the city or the county and they've already taken a retainer with all the lawyers in the area, those things do happen. They happened with oil and gas and they'll happen again. What do we do? Just curious. Is there anything y'all can do to back us up as
at the moment?
Nothing? Okay, thank you.
That becomes a civil matter then, and that's yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Like I said, we could sit up here all day and tell you what you want to hear, but we're not. Thank you.
Before we close, I just want to see Ms. Beving or Mr. Shelley, do y'all have any closing comments based on some of the public input or questions we've had?
I have a couple comments. One, you know what scares a legislator more than a lobbyist? Regular people. And you know why? Because you're voters. And I have citizens come up to us all the time saying, well, Rita, I'm not an expert. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to care about it. And believe me, it's usually a legislator's aides that are studying up on every bill to advise him. So don't think they know everything about every subject. They don't. The other thing I want to say to the commissioners, and I'd be happy to correspond with you, is what happens even in testimony at the Capitol is some of these data centers are giving technical answers to the letter of the law. I'm married to a lawyer. But it's not giving the full story by omission. For instance, I heard one data center executive say, oh, we use no more water than 5 households a year. Well, that's 100,000 times 5. But he didn't admit to how much more water the natural gas plant was going to take. Another example, I've seen data centers say, writing or testifying before, say, we have no added glycols in our cooling system. Well, he didn't admit to the fact there were already glycols in it, right? It's wordsmithing. And that's something that if y'all want to correspond on, I've noticed a pattern establishing. So anyway, thanks again.
Thank you. And I'll just close by adding, and really speaking to, all right, here we go. To the folks out here, you know, you have heard we've got to bring this energy and your opinions to Austin. That is what our organization does. We were in that all-night hearing on PFAS 2 years ago. We will be in Austin throughout the session. So, you know, go find us, citizen.org/Texas. We will be sending out opportunities for folks to join in Austin. We will be on this issue until it is solved for Texas. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We appreciate y'all and especially you all. So thank you.
I want to say, Mr. West, just like Rita said just a minute ago, y'all have more effect in Austin than we do, because I've sat in offices down there with documentation and had them go in and vote total opposite of what we just talked about. But citizens start showing up down there.
Well, there's a big push down.
They start taking notice.
There's a big push down there to stop us from coming at all.
Yes.
It's called the taxpayer-funded lobbying. You're going to be hearing about this. This is where they don't want us to have our associations They want to eliminate our associations. Judge and commissioners no longer have legal right to representation. I have to go down because I'm paid by the taxpayer and sign up as a registered lobbyist with no insight on what order those 10,000 bills that are being presented and what time I'm supposed to be there without my representation to summon me to be there. I'm 3 hours from there in a dead run right now. I cannot tell you how many times in this last session that I got a call at 8:30 in the morning and say, hey, can you be here at 11:30? We got a hearing. And I do everything I can. I get down there, I get in that building, and I sign up to oppose a bill in person. And because I'm there to oppose it, they move it to 2 p.m. I sign up again at right before 2 p.m. It gets moved to 10 p.m. Like they said, they were there at 3 a.m. I've been there 36 hours waiting for a 3-minute conversation. I can't tell you how many times. So, yeah, we're going to carry the voice. We do that. Every one of us up here will be there this session.
Before we close out today, I just want to give my appreciation or our appreciation to Rita Beving, Adrian Shelley. Let's give them a round of applause for coming up here today. I appreciate Matt Smith for letting me know about her presentation at the Sierra Club on April 15th. I think Matt texted me on April 14th and let me know about that, and it worked out perfectly for me to go hear her, and I appreciate the fact that I think you guys have appreciated her and enjoyed her presentation as well. There's the key factors here, I think, are water. There's small cities out there in West Texas that don't have enough water to run a car wash in their little town. They have boil notices every few days. The Sonic in one particular town out there, it's kind of a lottery as to whether or not they're going to be open that day. It depends on if they got water or not, and it's due to the impact on these things that they have on water. The power, same story. There's not enough power to sustain all of these data centers that's going on in the state of Texas. The contaminants that are coming out of them, I bring that up and I even have other county officials discount that. I said, oh, that's old school data centers. Well, my question is, what the heck's an old school data center? We never heard of one before 3 years ago. And so it's very concerning. Yeah, we don't want them. We don't need them. We've supported unanimously a resolution asking for more regulation, more guardrails, county involvement, and we're hopeful that we get somewhere with that. The good news is, like Mr. Tucker pointed out, those power generators, they're 5 to 7 years out. That's going to slow things down. Slowing down is a good thing. The permit process is about 3 years out, Rita? Something like that. Okay.
ERCOT's behind, so we'll see how the batching process.
It's an extended amount of time, so that's a good thing as well. But there's those that are in progress. Claude, Abilene, Childress, the ones that we've seen, the ones that are going on in, next door in Hood County. It's a scary situation. So I appreciate all of you coming, those people that are listening or watching online. Appreciate those folks. Dan, it'll be interesting to see how many viewers we had today. And Judge, I'll turn it back over to you.
I'm just looking out this crowd, and I see more people here know what a party line is. There's a few that remembers the old party lines. Life was a lot simpler, is my point. Without all of this technology, I think there's more people in the room that would just as soon drive over a few miles as opposed to pick up a cell phone just to see if they're there. But that's the world we're in, and what this young man that showed up here today is going to witness in his lifetime is truly going to be amazing at what's coming. Come on with it. All right. Well, again, yeah, and we greatly appreciate the attendance today, because you're going to go tell somebody, they're going to tell somebody that we don't want them in this county. We may not have a choice, but we don't. So thank you.
Commissioner Bailey, to your point, today was a workshop. That means there is no action related to this for the court. But I think there is a call to action, and it does take all of us together. So as a community, we can continue working on this, responding to this, and pushing for what's right for Johnson County, and we need your help to do that. We appreciate y'all. We are adjourned at 4:30 p.m. Thank you.